What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Six Ring Kings pregame show. Big game today, joined here by Paul Austria and Larry Bluestein. Waiting on, uh, as usual, Jock. Jock to join us on the show. He'll be joining us a little bit later. But first things first, man. These uniforms look awesome. They look absolutely awesome, man. I hope it makes them play as awesome as they look. So, uh, a big game against the University of North Carolina now coming up in about half an hour or so. Small unavailability report, which is nice to see. The only downside is Jalen Knighton is going to be out for the rest of the season, which, I mean, there was really only one game left, but has an elbow injury. I'm sorry, a shoulder injury. So he's in a splint right now, and a sling right now, as I can see him walking down the field. Um, as we all know, Al Blaze is out, and it's Isaiah Walker and Jared Harrison Hunt who is nursing an elbow injury. So, aside from that, man, this is definitely the biggest game of the season against the best team that we've probably faced all season, aside from Clemson. Sam Howell and the bunch, man, they got to go in over there with Javante Williams, Michael Carter, Diane Brown. They got a lot of weapons, Blue. Talk about what we're going to see out of North Carolina today with Sam Howell and that offense, and how can the Kings kind of contain them a little bit? And I think it's going to be a shootout. So, talk to me a little bit about what you think is going to happen here.
Yeah, well, first of all, you have a North Carolina team that is among the best at putting the ball into the end zone. Their efficiency is pretty crazy in the red zone, too. So they have a lot of playmakers, whether it be passing, we know, and then running. You mentioned Evans, a young man from up in Navarre, Florida, which is up in the Panhandle. I mean, they've got some kids, and they've been building towards this team for the last couple of years. And when Brown took over last year, it kind of ignited a lot of the guys who were recruited in the previous class to stay. And he combined with what he has now, and he's got a really good offensive team. Miami could probably obviously slow him down with a good pass rush. They have their front seven still intact. They got to control the line of scrimmage. They didn't do that last year at a lot of times against North Carolina. I was watching the film on Wednesday of this week, and I was really actually probably more proud of the way the offensive line, as much as we malign them and talk, that it's a problem area. You look back at last year's game, and I'll tell you what, everything that was being done in that game was being done by the quarterback and the running back just to get back to the line of scrimmage. North Carolina, which is not a fierce defense, they have schemes, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen in today's game. We know that Miami defensively will just throw the kitchen sink at them, do everything they can to stop them. I mean, you can't really stop them because they do a lot of things, and you'd have to be like even Clemson and those. You can't stop a team like North Carolina. They have a lot of weapons. But you said to get in a shootout. I don't know if Miami really wants to get in the shootout, but if they do, I think Miami's kicking game favors them. Their punting game favors them because they'll have the field position. I think that you have an opportunity to put up a lot of points today. But stopping North Carolina, which was your original question, is not going to be an easy task. We all know that, and nobody's really done that yet.
Here's the good news, right? Last year we dropped it by 3 points, right, on a field goal. This year we're not going to have. I don't think we're going to have that issue.
No.
Like you said, Blue, the kicking game does favor us. So if it comes down to something like that, I'm very confident with our kicking game. But Paul, as you join us from probably East or West 32 out there, as Paul will be our sideline reporter today. He'll be our sideline reporter today. He's here at the game as well. Talk to me a little bit about what flipping it over to the Miami defense first and foremost. Right, we've got just about everybody back, which is nice to see. Minus maybe Jared Harrison Hunt, who's like I said, nursing an elbow injury. Talk to me a little bit about what Miami's defense is going to have to do because, look, I don't want to get in the shootout, but I just feel like this is a very North Carolina State game, style game. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to take Miami to make a big stop on defense towards the end of the game. It's going to be an exciting game. But what does Miami have to do on the defensive side of the football to contain Sam Howell and that running game first and foremost, because I think that that's where Miami has had more of an issue rather than the passing game. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, Blue mentioned it. I really feel like this is going to be, well, at least I think it's going to be a shootout just because, I mean, it's really going to come down to which defenses can make stops. And when I was watching film this week, one player that kind of intrigues me, on top of the running, I'll get into the running game later, but one guy that intrigues me is Daz Newsome. I remember watching the Notre Dame film, and they threw out wide to him a lot. And I think he averages about 16 to 19 yards after the catch, which is a huge thing. So I feel like one thing that I want to watch is that I hope Miami's safeties and even the linebackers even have to be able to tackle in space. That's the thing, because if Newsom breaks loose, then all hell breaks loose. And this is an offense that's very, very multiple. They even You could kind of say they run a similar offense to Miami's because they run a lot of RPO. Um, and I think another key for Miami is that they have to contain Howell. He can run he's not an amazing runner, but he's a good enough runner. Well, he can run if he has to. And he's also very efficient too. He's thrown 26 touchdowns and 6 picks. He's a very, very smart quarterback, and he's gotten better since last year. And I mean, if you thought their offense last year was good, this offense is lethal. This is definitely the best offense Miami will face all year. The fifth best offense in the country, albeit. And I mean, look at the running backs too. You have Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, who both are probably going to hit 1,000 yards each this season, which is crazy for two running backs on the same team to make that feat. And then Javonte Williams has 16 touchdowns on the year. Carter has 7. Um, they can score in bunches, and I think it's funny because we thought Miami was so depleted last week, and we worried about them against Duke, but they played so well that just like like they I'm not gonna say they need the depth, but honestly, like I'm a very like if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of guy, and I honestly would just put the same guys they put out last week. Like guys like Wayman Steve played well, Jennings played well, all the safeties tackled really well. And I think Bloom mentioned this too, where I don't hopefully Miami pressures Howell early because you don't want to give him that confidence in the beginning. Um, whether that will work or not remains to be seen. But I think that Miami, I don't know, it's gonna. I feel like it's gonna come down to intangibles where Miami is at home, and I feel like they still feel like they have a lot to prove. On top of that win from last week, just because of the whole BS and just the rankings and everything. So
We can call it the BCSBS now.
Yeah, that's
yes, yeah. They have a huge chip on their shoulder, and this is essentially their ACC championship. If you think about it, this is because this is their last game until whatever bowl game they get into. So
Right.
there's a lot on the line for Miami
excuse me.
for this game.
Well, yeah, but and this is important to be able to get to that New York Six, right? One of the New York Six bowl games. I think it's going to be important.
Yeah.
Blue, I think for me it's about a lot of it, and I know we say this a lot, but I think a lot of it has to do with can we pressure Sam Howell enough? Can the guys on the edge um, keep them contained, put a lot of pressure on him, and the guys up the middle as well, right? Because you're going to see a lot of different sets. You're going to see a lot of different things that the defense is going to get thrown at them, right? And they're going to move the ball up and down. They're going to get yards. It's about keeping them out of the end zone, right? Forcing field goals, making plays, bend but don't break mentality on the defensive side of the football for Miami. Phillips and Roche and the other guys, Harvey and Williams and the rest of the bunch, they're really going to have to step up today, get a lot of pressure on how early, like Paul said, and make a difference there. And you've got everybody back. McLeod is back, Brooks, and obviously Corey Flagg as well. So a lot of the guys are back, ready to play. It's momentum right now. I think at the end they have something to prove, Blue, and I just think that today they're going to have to pull out all the stops and throw everything at UNC as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. The one thing that I was thinking about as you were going over some of the points, excuse me, is you have to rattle that offense a little bit early. You have to make a play. You have to get a pass rush in. You have to, throw some blitzes around. You have to do, like you said, do some things to get not only the passing game, but the running game a little bit off kilter early, make a play in the backfield, come up with a stop, come up with an interception, a turnover, something that would set the tone that would make that offense think twice to keep going back, to the well. So Miami needs to make plays. They can't just let this offense, Howell and this offense, just dictate what they want to do. Because if you do get, the only thing that I don't like about getting in a shootout is if you get up in your turn and you miss it, then the other guy keeps going, and that's the only bad thing, but yeah, Miami showed that they could score points, but not very many against Virginia. They've had a lot of close games, but that would favor Miami too, having a lot of close games this year. And not be, not saying, well, it's over, and just keep, keep everything in focus. And I think that's an important thing. North Carolina's been in some shootouts. They've been Wake Forest game. You look back at 4 or 5 games, and they were in the 40s to the 35s and the 50s to 45 type of games. See, Miami's really not used to that this year, because the only game I think with the Louisville game was somewhat like that, because
NC State a little bit too.
Yes. But other than that, I mean, you look at it, yes, the NC State definitely. So Miami's been in a couple of those games and have shown at the end with their quarterback bailing them out more times than not. So listen, that's what he's there for. So if they need him to do it again today, then so be it. And he's on national TV again. I'll tell you what, that's the one thing too, guys, you got to remember. In the early going, putting Miami on national TV, 3 out of the first 4 weeks and all that, they would have never gotten that if this wasn't a COVID season. So no matter what happens, they've always got, those positives to look back on. And especially like today, I mean, you're looking at we're December the 12th. Isn't this usually playoff day or something? Something is usually,
right?
Yeah, something's usually going on. So Miami's going to capture, until the Army-Navy game anyway, Miami will capture that audience, and everyone nationally will get a chance to see them.
Look, you mentioned something really quick, and I'm going to go back to it before we kind of go forward. But Virginia, right? Virginia, that win, we didn't score a lot of points. It kind of looked a little ugly. But this same team that we're playing today dropped the game to Virginia earlier this year, right? Virginia is no slouch. I mean, Brennan Armstrong.
No.
But
then Virginia will turn around and lose to somebody that you don't expect them to. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and we go over this every pregame, and I think that you'll agree that there's Clemson and Notre Dame, and then there's the rest of the ACC in any shape or form, from 10 down, all the way up to 3. I mean, you could interchange the teams, because look at how close, like you say, NC State, even Pittsburgh, they'll come up and bite you in the butt, and they have this year. So, and then early on, you have Boston College coming up with a couple of wins. So, yeah, this is one of those conferences that I think will be more even than it will be, despairing between 2, and I think the gap's going to close, and I think it's starting to. But Miami and schools like that will have to continue to recruit. I like Virginia's future because, like you said, they play hard, they're well coached, they always have a bunch of seniors on the team. So yeah, and I think with the transfer portal, it's going to give a lot of these programs to have more experienced teams, which is good. And Miami definitely needs that with all the young kids coming in.
Well, that's huge. Speaking of the transfer portal, I've got here all the award watch list. Lou Headley is the Ray Gard Award watch. Trevor Jordan, the Mackey Award preseason All ACC also. De'Aaron King, Maxwell Award, Davey O'Brien. Zach McLeod, the Warfel Trophy. Whatever. Quincy, I'm not sure about that one. Quincy
Did Danny Warfel have a quarterback as a trophy?
Yeah, I guess so. The Quincy Roche is a Benerick and Nagurski Trophy, and they missed, I think, Bubba Bolden, who's a Jim Thorpe Award finalist, semifinalist as well.
What about Borregales? Did we say him?
And Borregales, all transfer portal guys. They need to continue to go to that well. But moving forward, right, with what's going on today I kind of want to flip it and talk a little bit about our offense a little bit more, because obviously with the loss of Jalen Knighton, it's the Donald Chaney and Cam Harris show tonight. Maybe throw in a little bit of Burns, a little Robert Burns in there, which I happen to like. Robert Burns, he's just been riddled with injuries, but I'm excited to see more of Don Chaney. I think so, and I heard this on the radio. So I think he's our best running back. I think he's explosive. He's got that extra gear. I think he's a kid that sees the field really well and knows how to break tackles. And I think that that is very important in this game.
Yeah.
If you can make guys miss, North Carolina's defense is not all that. They give up a lot of points. We just have to continue to score points. We have to move the field. We have to move the ball. Take some time off the clock. I think Rhett Lashley is. That's another thing, right? Rhett Lashley, I think, is going to be able to. If he can find that running game, he's going to be able to milk the clock a little bit, and it might become a lower scoring game because of that. Because you don't want North Carolina's offense to be on the field for too long, because they can move the ball and they can score points. So what's the best remedy for that? Run the football, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna need to see Cam Harris and Don Chaney a lot, Paul.
Agreed. I think with Cheney especially too, I love the way he runs just because I feel like he has a lot of lower body strength and he doesn't go down that easily. And you can kind of see it when he runs too. Like he'll find his way to kind of scrap for 2 or 3 more yards at the end of plays. And I don't know, I feel like people. Well, I don't think fans have turned because I know well, at least there was some rumblings that Cheney was a little disappointed with how Knighton's been getting more carries than him. But I actually agree with that statement, just that Cheney's this good right now, and give it, wait until he's a junior, even when he's
Right.
going to be even so much better. And I've seen like how hard he works out in high school, especially like he's a weight room freak. Like
Right.
he's definitely there was no really I guess strength adjustment to the next level, and I think that's gonna be big. And I think that, especially with all what's going on with the Miami passing games, this past year, it definitely will take the pressure off of King a little bit and the receivers. I mean, I still feel this is a game where everyone needs to kind of go off, or not go off, but play well and execute. But
Right.
I still think that having a solid running game today, like at least good amount of carries from both Harris and Janey will definitely help out the offense a lot. And like you said, like it's gonna come down to when one team can't, when it's a shootout and one team can't score, the other team keep going. And I think that's what happened against Notre Dame for North Carolina too, where eventually Notre Dame got to they pressured Howell in the second half and they couldn't get anything going, and that's how Notre Dame broke away.
They won the line of scrimmage, which obviously in that game Notre Dame was just bigger up front, and they wore them down, and
Yeah.
and that's what happened. I was waiting for it to go the other way, but it never did. And Paul, you brought up a good point with getting the most you can out of these running backs. I mean, especially when you take a look at somebody like a Cheney, who's a 7-foot high jumper. I mean, this kid is not just like, hey, come on over here and play running back. He's just a total athlete. He's a stud. He's everything that they thought he'd be. Everybody wanted to knock him down. And I think Jakari could speak of this. When you go to a smaller school, people want to tend to think, oh, well, they're competition. But you look at Cheney, and probably the most impressive game, Jakari, that I saw him play was his junior year. He carried 26 times for 95 yards against South Ridge. He had no line. He did it all by himself. It was amazing. I mean, talk about that, because you have a guy like that who, as Paul said, 2 years from now could be among the best in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter where you play at. It's just mostly about your heart and your effort. And Don Chaney, small story about him. He trained with me when I was training for my pro day with Joey Scott at Berlin. So I knew Don since he was about a ninth grader, and
Right.
he's a superior athlete. So I never doubted that he was gonna. I never doubted his talents. I think he was gonna always dominate with his athleticism and his speed. I just think the kid has a chance to be very special. Um, Still a freshman, but he'll get better in the
Yeah.
college game as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, right, like the freshmen have to especially on our team where we don't have that depth yet, we're still building it. They have to contribute, and they have to contribute right away. And not only on our team, right, but for college football altogether, you see a lot of freshmen contributing right away. So I think that is, we've moved to that already because kids want to get out, they want to get in, they want to do their 3 years and go pro. So you're going to see a lot of that, and if they're talented, if they're good, you're going to see a lot of playing time. And I think Don Chaney is one of those kids that this year you saw how talented he is, and I think next year he's just going to be one. He could definitely be one of the top backs in the ACC, and and who knows from there. I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the comments that we have here as well. Bring up a good point. Some of them bring up a good point as far as like some of our games. So now, obviously, Georgia Tech game next week is canceled for whatever the reason is. We won't get into it, but I think that they pulled an FSU, but that's neither here nor there. Um, do you think it's a good idea to maybe schedule one more game, maybe a really big game to bolster our resume, or after we win this game, does it kind of solidify a New York Six? You know, if we win this game
Yeah.
today, does that solidify a New York
Let's
Six?
get Ohio State. Let's get Ohio State. They ain't doing anything. Bring them down.
Let's do it, right? Yeah, no kidding, right?
They need more games. We need
So
more games. Why not?
Yeah,
the,
they
the,
need a game.
They're not ready for Ohio State. So
Oh, I
it's
know.
not a
Yeah.
good matchup. But I
anybody
mean, I,
can.
don't- I don't. I think Miami should be fine. You got to look at the SEC when you look at it. Florida will probably take a loss to Alabama. So that will knock them out of the New Year's Six, and you'll just have A&M. But I think Miami has solidified. I think they played well enough to have a New Year's Six good. I kind of wish they had the ACC championship game to be playing for. This game would probably have more intensity, but I think Miami has had a solid season for where we've been at in the season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I don't think they need to play another game. I just think they need to get healthy and play it in a New Year's Six bowl game.
Right.
Probably against maybe you're probably going to see Texas A&M or Florida or one of those
That'd be neat.
in the Orange Bowl. So that'll be really nice.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little deal. And the whole thing is when you take a look at it too, Miami's used to the time off now. Geez, they've been off 3 weeks. They play a week, so hey, it's not going to affect them. We already know that the curse is over for Manny. We can play with time off. I think.
The more time off, the better.
Yeah,
Apparently.
Yeah.
yeah,
We just need
yeah.
1 month bye weeks or bye months, essentially.
Hey, the one thing I'm the most amazed at today is that guy who's in the parking lot that rips you out of your car when you first get there hasn't taken Paul out of his car yet.
I know. That's
I
unbelievable.
thought I would too, and I guess I don't know. A couple of security guys have passed by me. I guess they're fine with it. So it's like whatever.
Now,
I'm
I'll
just
tell you
chilling.
what, I couldn't even get my keys out of my ignition last time. The guy, he had
Really?
his, yeah,
Oh,
he said, hey, I want to let you know you can't tailgate. I said, but can I park?
I mean, yeah, I'm
Damn.
inside my car. I'm not
unbelievable.
doing anything really.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they look at you up and down and like, who are you? And I'm like, well, can I just at least get out of my car
You
for a second?
you can't even loiter
Like,
with your own self. Like that's how strict I've heard it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
it's really
hear you.
weird.
Hey, let's turn our attention a little bit, just for 2 seconds, on recruiting because it's not. I obviously don't want to talk a lot about it, but a lot of people are starting to talking about this linebacker from USC, who's a Bishop Gorman kid. Played with Bubba Bolden, played with Brevin Jordan, and even Tate Martell. He did play with them. Solid stud 5-star linebacker. I don't know his name. I'm not going to mention it. I don't know how to say it. So. But it seems to be getting some wheels, right? And Jock, they're asking you the question: do you think we should go after this linebacker over there at USC? And is he gonna? Could he come in and play right away, day one next year?
Yeah, of course, because you got to look at what Miami's bringing back at the linebacker position of Sam Brooks. Um, Probably about the best guy they'll be bringing back. So Corey Flag as well. But yeah, I think he'll be an excellent addition. You got to have three good rotational linebackers at this level. Obviously, want to be better in covering than others, so one of them would always weed themselves out. You got to just think about the pace and space game, and the guy from USC is very, very good player. I caught glimpses of him playing in his games this year. Very explosive tackler. I don't know how good he would be in pass coverage, but will he be a great addition to Miami? Yes. Anytime you can add competition to the linebacker position or competition on your team, when you have that type of depth, that breeds winning. Once they get that, the more depth you have on the team, the better your team is.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah. Yeah. You got to go after him.
we got to go after. I mean, the transfer portal has been so good to us. I think we got to go after him hard. Every day that I kind of just every single day, I start to think more and more that we may get Zierra King back next year. He's saying all the right things, but that doesn't mean anything. He's saying that he wouldn't mind coming back and playing. Um, Listen, Blue, if Zierra King comes back to this football program, let's be honest, right? Without him, we're not 8-1 right now. I don't think. I think
Not even close.
he's made the biggest difference on this team, right? And I don't know. I'm not saying that TVD or even Jake Garcia or any of these guys can't be that guy, but I think that next year, starting off against a team like Alabama, I think you need a guy like Derek King. You need an older guy that um, can really take control of this team. And honestly speaking, I think that they got a shot at being a contender next year if Derek King comes back.
Well, the way I look at it, you take a look at him, he's a functional quarterback. Is he an NFL type quarterback? He's nowhere near Kyler Murray, nowhere near Russell Wilson, not even in their time zone. He's not even in the time zone of the kid that Malcolm Perry that the Dolphins. That's a very special guy right there. You see, so you have to look at Malcolm Perry, who did all his trickery at Naval Academy, and he was a great receiver, and he could run and all like that. The whole thing that to me is this: he won't hurt or help himself either way if he stays. I mean, he's going to go where he's going to go. I mean, he's not going to do anything miraculous next year that's going to say, oh, well, he's a top 5 pick. He's not going to be like that. He's just who he is who he is right now. I mean, he's obviously, if he got behind a more advanced offensive line, he may do a lot more, but he's geared to do all what he does. Just my opinion. I think that either whatever decision he makes, it's got to be in his best interest. And if it's his best interest to stay around, then so be it. If it's not, and he thinks that he could benefit by going into the NFL, which I mean, I've heard from a lot of NFL scouts, and he's a novelty, is what he is. And is the NFL need another novelty type guy? That's Jakari could answer that. He's seen enough guys who are versatile in his time. I mean, you're a really functional quarterback at the college level, and you do some great things, but the NFL is a whole different world.
Jock, I think you do agree with Blue, but for the program for the Kings themselves, it'll be a huge deal. For the NFL, maybe not so much, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
if he comes back, that puts Miami probably top 5. That Alabama matchup would probably be number 2 versus number 5 in the
Yeah.
country next
Yeah.
year for that. But he's just a college quarterback. There's nothing wrong with that. He's just a good college quarterback.
Yeah.
He's good for Miami, and he can just hold the table enough for the freshman guys can develop next year. Van Dyke and um Jake Garcia if he commits. So
Yeah, I
But they've
agree.
got to give those guys playing time. There haven't been very many other quarterbacks that played this year but him.
That's
So
true.
next year he's got to give way to a couple of those when it's like 28-0 in the fourth quarter or 35-0. They've got to let those younger kids get some reps. They have no reps in games.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the reason is because some of these games have been kind of tight. So
No, I know all of them
yeah,
have.
yeah, for sure. Let's close this out here a little bit and talk about our keys to the game and give me a prediction. We'll start with you, Paul, so you can get in here.
I think the main thing is just to pressure and contain Howell. Because like we talked about it a bunch. Powell has a bunch of weapons, and if this whole, I think it's gonna become a shootout. But if it does turn into a shootout, at least rattle Howell a bit, so that like you want to see guys like Phillips and Roche to get to him often and early. And I think that's a main thing, and then also just tackling. There's a lot of the running backs are great, and I mentioned Newsome earlier. Newsome is dangerous when he's in space. So they gotta tackle. They pretty much gotta do everything they did right into Duke, but maybe even into a higher level. Like they really gotta execute because this is a big game for Miami, and they have a lot to prove. I think that Miami pulls this one out. I think this is going to be a shootout, and I think Miami pulls this one out 38-35.
Go ahead, Blue.
Well, we've talked about it for the last half hour. What has to be done. You can't have shootout. If you do, then you're going to have to keep up with each other. I think it's a game where Miami has to make some key stops somewhere along the line. You have to get the turnovers. You got to, because if not, you just let him feel comfortable. There's not a lot of people that are going to sway it. The stadium practically empty, so it's not going to be one of those games that Miami fans are just going to will their team to win. I think Miami wins it on a late field goal by Borregales from 49 yards out, 38-35.
Oh, you got 238 to 35. You want to hear something funny before we get to Jack? I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I was gonna predict 38 to 35 also. This is scary. Go ahead, Jack.
I see Miami winning in the lower score again, and I think 31-28. I think Miami defense get a late stop to end the game. Uh, Only thing is when you playing shootout football, it's just which defense can get a stop right away. So
Yeah.
whichever defenses can come up with the most stops and force field goals inside the red zone, that's who will win the game. But I got Miami winning 31-28.
Look, I think Miami's going to have to control. I don't want to say control the lines of scrimmage, but they're going to have to run the ball really well, take some time off the clock. I think that's going to be the biggest key. Aside from that, I'm going to go 38-35 also. Canes. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys later, Blue. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys.
Natural anthem.
Later.